everyone, welcome to Embroidery Garden. I'm Reen Wilcoxon and I want to give you some tips and tricks on finishing your in the hoop project. So this is a brand new project, fresh off the hoop. I have trimmed it and turned it according to the instructions, and I've just poked the corners out using my fingers. And now I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to really finish it off. So I like to use a few tools. This is one of the tools that I like to use. It's the precision turning tool. I like to have a couple little clips with me, these little wonder clips to close up the opening. And I like to use a clapper. This is Angela Wolf's clapper, and I'll show you how to use it. So now that I've got the corners poked out just with my fingers, I'm going to go in and I'm going to start using this tool. So I'm going to go inside and I want to start working out my corners carefully. This design has rounded corners, and you can see how nicely that corner has rounded out. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do all four corners. This design has fabric on the inside and cork on the outside. I'm going to get these two bottom corners pushed out nicely. And this is where you want to take some time on your project because you want to make it as nice as you can make it. You took all the time to finish it, to construct it, take the time to finish it off. So I poked my corners out, but I want to take my little tool and go back inside. And what I'm doing is I'm running that tool, can you see the tool moving inside? Through the seam. So if I lay it down, you can see a little bit better. The tool I'm running inside that seam here. There is a seam. I'm going to do it on all sides. I'm going to kind of hold it flat and use the tool to push the seam out. Let me get this side. Again, let me hold it up here so you can kind of see better. Okay, so that's pushing out the sides a little bit. So now that I've got my corners pushed out, let me double check. I want to go back in and I'm going to work on this top corner here a little bit more. Okay, I think I got it how I want it now. So I've pushed the seams out inside. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start to press. So what I want to do is I want to make sure when I press this that the seam is here on the edge. When I press it, I don't want it looking like this on the front side. I don't want it looking like this on the inside. I want the seam right along the edge where it should be. So I'm going to make sure that I have it where I want it. And I'm going to use an iron. My iron is already warmed up. And I'm going to just press it. I'm not ironing. I'm not going back and forth. I'm just pressing. After it's warmed up a little bit, I'm going to take the clapper and just hold it down over the seam. What it's doing is it's flattening out the project. So if you look at the side here, you can see that it's kind of big, right, and puffy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work around with the iron and the clapper, flattening the project out. So again, though, I want to take my tool and I want to make sure I got this out as far as I can get it out. Now when I go to press, again, I want to make sure that I have the seam right along the edge here, right in the center of the edge where the seam is supposed to be. I'm going to flatten it out with my hand. I'm going to take my iron and I'm going to just press. Okay, I can use some steam. I'm going to go to the end of the that edge there, use a little bit of steam. I'm going to use my clapper and I'm going to just press it down just for a few seconds along the edge. And then I'll show you what the edge looks like. So now you can see how nice and flat the edge looks. So again, here's the opposite edge that I haven't done yet. And see how wide and puffy that is? Let's go back and look at the other edge and how flat that edge is. So I'm going to do the same thing to this remaining edge here. I'm going to take my tool. I'd like to take it and go back inside a little bit just to make sure I have the seam pushed out well. Again, I'm going to flatten it with my fingers and I'm going to be looking to make sure the seam is centered on the edge. Take my iron again, and I'm just pressing. I can use steam. Okay, so once it's warmed up, I'll take the clapper, hold it down just for a few seconds, hold it down up here. Okay, and let's look and see how nice and flat that edge is. So really, on this project, I'm not even going to have to top stitch because my edge is nice and flat. I'm going to take care of the bottom opening now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fold in this opening. Now you're going to notice there's a stitch line. That's part of the construction. But I want to make sure that when this project is completely finished, you don't see that stitch line. So I'm going to make sure that that gets folded in nicely. I'm going to just put a little bit of steam on there just to hold it while I work on getting the other side, the cork side, turned in. So I'm just going to turn it in a little bit. That's why I left it longer, so I had something to turn in. And now I'm going to bring the edges together. Again, I want to make sure I don't see that seam or that stitch line when it's finished. So I make sure that it's turned in nicely. I'm just going to kind of hold it and make sure that I get it turned in so I cannot see it. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to give it another little press. I want to make sure these two edges, the fabric and the cork edge, are even. So I'm going to just steam the end of the, this is a little clutch is what it is. And I'm going to put the clapper on it for just a few seconds. All I'm doing is laying it on top and pushing down on it. Okay, now I've got my bottom ready. And what I like to do is I like to use the little wonder clips. So I'm just going to clip the opening closed. And on this project, I'm probably going to use a fabric glue, something to hold it together. I don't want to top stitch around. One reason is because there is a lot of thickness when you get down into this area here. This is a pocket that has double-sided fusible in it, or double-sided stabilizer. And then when I get over to here and it's down in this bottom corner, I've got batting, I've got fabric, I've got a double layer pocket and another double layer pocket and the cork. So you know how when you're sewing, sometimes when you start going through all those thicknesses, your machine doesn't really handle that well. So I'm going to use fabric glue on this. But I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to press the inside. I'm going to start here at the top of the little clutch. Again, I'm going to use my clapper. And I'm just going to work my way down using the clapper as I work down. This is an area here where there is a lot of thickness. So I'll just kind of press around and I'm going to use the clapper again. If you want a clapper like this, again, it's Angela Wolf's clapper. You can get it from angelawolf.com. And if you use the code REEN, R-E-E-N 15, that's all capital letters, you can save 15% off of anything on our website. So now, look how nicely I've got everything pressed. I'm not going to press from the cork side, only because, you know, there are different types of cork out there. If I wanted to press from the cork side, I would definitely use a press cloth. But let's go back and look at the edges again, and you can see how nice and flat all of these edges are, how nicely my corners are rounded out. And then this little clutch is almost done. I am going to have to close up the bottom, and I'm going to be installing a magnetic snap, and you can see the finished product on my on my Facebook page, Embroidery Gardens Facebook page, in a few days. Thanks.